They thought rejecting you would break you. They expected you to plead, to fight for a place in their life, to prove your worth. But instead you chose silence. A silence so powerful, so deafening that it now echoes in their mind, louder than any words ever could. Because here's the truth, absence speaks in ways presence never can. When you walk away with grace, when you stop justifying your worth, when you remove your energy from where it's not valued, that's when they feel it. That's when they start questioning their choice, reliving the moments, realizing what they lost. Rejection is not your ending. It's their regret waiting to unfold. And as your silence grows, so does their realization. You were never the one who lost. They were. So let them sit with the weight of their own choices. Because while they wrestle with regret, you are rising. They thought your silence meant you didn't care. They assumed your lack of response was indifference, that you simply moved on without a second thought. But what they fail to understand is this. Silence is not weakness, it is power. Silence is not the absence of emotion, it is the presence of self-respect. When someone rejects you, they expect a reaction. They expect you to seek closure, to demand answers, to fight for a place in their life. Because that's what they're used to, people proving their worth to them. But the moment you choose silence instead, the moment you walk away without argument, without justifications, without a desperate plea to be understood, that's when the real impact begins. Because words can be debated, dismissed, ignored, but silence lingers. The unsettling power of silence is a reason why silence is so unnerving. It forces people to sit with their own thoughts. It creates a space where their mind starts filling in the blanks, replaying conversations, re-examining choices. And when they realize that you are no longer trying to be heard, no longer waiting for validation, that's when it starts to hurt. They begin to wonder, did I make the right choice? Why aren't they chasing after me? Did I misjudge their worth? The absence of your words forces them to hear their own. In that silence, they start realizing what they lost. Not because you told them, not because you tried to convince them, but because they had to figure it out on their own. And that realization, it's far more powerful than anything you could have ever said. Silence flips the power dynamic. Rejection is often about control. It's about someone deciding they hold the power in the relationship, that they get to dictate the terms, that they have the final say in whether you are enough. But when you respond with silence, you take that power back. You show them that you're not someone who waits around for validation, that your value does not depend on their acceptance, that their decision does not define your worth. And the most unexpected thing happens. The one who rejected you starts feeling rejected. Because suddenly they are the ones left wondering. They are the ones craving a response. They are the ones who feel the void that your absence has created. Your energy is a gift. Not everyone deserves it. People only truly appreciate what they believe they can lose. And when you make it clear through your silence that you are not an option to be taken lightly, you shift the entire dynamic. You are no longer someone who needs their approval. You are someone who chooses where your energy goes. And that realization is uncomfortable for them. Because deep down, they expected you to stay. They expected you to fight for their attention, to keep proving your worth. But when you don't, when you show them that you are perfectly fine walking away, that's when the regret starts to creep in. Silence is not revenge, it's self-respect, let's be clear. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about using silence as manipulation. It's about recognizing your worth and refusing to beg for a seat at a table where you are no longer valued. It's about knowing when to stop speaking and start moving forward. Your silence is not about causing them pain. It's about protecting your peace. It's about understanding that the right people, the ones who truly see you, truly appreciate you, will never put you in a position where you feel like you have to fight for their attention. And when you embrace that truth, you stop waiting. You stop explaining. You stop hoping they'll wake up and realize your worth. because you already know it. Final thought. So let them feel your silence. Let them sit with their choices. Let them wonder what happened to the person who once gave so much, who once fought so hard to be seen, because the moment they realize that you're no longer waiting, no longer available, no longer trying, is the moment they will wish they had never let you go. Here's a powerful, deeply engaging expansion of key point 2. Rejection is a reflection of them, not you. Let me know if you'd like any refinements. Rejection is a reflection of them, not you. Rejection, it stings. It makes you question everything, your worth, your choices, your very existence in someone's life. But what if I told you that rejection isn't about you at all? What if I told you that when someone turns away, when they choose not to see your value, it has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with their own limitations? Let's be honest. Rejection feels personal. It feels like a direct attack on who you are. But the truth is, rejection often has more to do with where they are in life, what they fear, and what they fail to recognize than it does with you. People reject what they don't understand or aren't ready for. Think about this. Have you ever walked away from something or someone, not because they weren't good enough, but because you weren't ready? Because you were dealing with your own struggles, your own fears, your own doubts? The same applies when someone rejects you. People often push away what they don't fully understand or aren't emotionally mature enough to handle. They reject depth when they are used to superficiality. They dismiss strength when they are comfortable in their own insecurities. They overlook loyalty when they have never learned how to value it. Sometimes people don't recognize a good thing, not because it isn't good, but because they aren't in a place where they can appreciate it. And that's not a reflection of you, that's a reflection of them. Rejection is about perception, not reality. Imagine handing a priceless diamond to someone who only understands the value of plastic. Will they recognize its worth? No. Not because the diamond isn't valuable, but because their perception is limited. When someone rejects you, it's the same thing. Their inability to see your value doesn't mean you lack it. It simply means they are not equipped to recognize it, and that is not your burden to carry. Think about the most successful, admired people in the world, actors, leaders, entrepreneurs, visionaries. How many times were they rejected before they were finally recognized? How many times did someone fail to see their potential? Rejection did not define them. How they responded to it did. You cannot convince someone to see your worth. Here's the hard truth. You cannot make someone value you. You cannot explain your worth to someone determined to overlook it. When someone rejects you, don't waste time proving why they should have chosen you. Don't beg for clarity, for understanding, for another chance. The moment you do, you hand over your power. Instead, recognize that rejection is simply redirection. It's a closed door that was never meant to open for you, because the right people, they won't need to be convinced. The right person will see you, without you having to shrink yourself, adjust yourself, or plead to be understood. Rejection is an invitation to walk away with dignity. The way you handle rejection says far more about you than the rejection itself. Will you let it break you? Will you let it define you? Or will you use it as an opportunity to walk away with dignity, knowing that your worth does not decrease because someone failed to see it? You always have a choice. Let rejection destroy your confidence, or let it strengthen your self-respect. When you stop personalizing rejection, when you understand that it's not a measure of your value but a reflection of the other person's perception, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for validation. You stop seeking closure that won't come. You stop thinking that if only you had been more, they would have stayed. You were enough. You are enough. You always will be. Their inability to see it, that's their loss, not yours. Final thought. So, the next time someone rejects you, remember this. Their decision does not define you. Their inability to see your worth does not mean it isn't there. It simply means they weren't capable of recognizing it. And that's okay, because you were never meant to be understood by people who are not ready for you. So let them walk away. Let them misunderstand you. Let them go. Because the ones who truly see you, the ones who recognize your value without you having to prove it, those are the ones worth keeping. Here's a powerful, deeply engaging expansion of key point 3. Your absence speaks louder than words. Let me know if you'd like any refinements. Your absence speaks louder than words. There's a moment when you finally step back, when you stop explaining, stop proving, stop showing up for someone who never truly valued your presence. And in that silence, something shifts. Because here's the truth. Your absence is not just an empty space in someone's life. It's a statement, a lesson, a mirror reflecting everything they took for granted. People don't always appreciate what's in front of them until it's gone. They don't always recognize the weight of your presence until they're forced to carry the emptiness of your absence. Silence is more powerful than any argument. When someone dismisses you, belittles you, or refuses to acknowledge your worth, your instinct might be to fight for understanding, to defend yourself, to make them see what they're losing. But words rarely change a mind that is unwilling to listen. You cannot argue someone into valuing you. What you can do is walk away. Your silence will say everything your words never could. It will force them to confront what they lost. It will leave them wondering why the energy they used to drain from you is no longer there to feed them. And in that void, in that unshakable stillness, they will finally understand. Because silence is deafening when someone is used to your presence. Absence creates reflection. Think about the moments in life when you've missed someone, when their absence forced you to reflect, to reconsider, to appreciate what you once had but didn't fully see. That's exactly what happens when you step away from someone who once dismissed you. At first, they may not notice. They may even feel relieved. But over time, the absence grows louder. They start to wonder, why aren't they texting me anymore? Why aren't they reaching out like they always did? Then something shifts. The absence turns into regret. The space where you once were now feels empty, not because you were insignificant, but because you mattered more than they realized. And that realization, it lingers, it haunts. It makes them question everything. They will feel your absence in ways they never felt your presence. Some people only learn through loss. They only wake up to reality when the comfort of someone's presence is ripped away. Your consistency was their safety net. Your love was their shield. Your energy was their fuel. But they never stop to think, what happens when it's gone? At first, they will pretend it doesn't matter. They will go on with their lives as if nothing has changed. But deep down, they will feel it. They will feel the absence of your laughter, your support, your patience. They will crave the validation they once received from you effortlessly. They will search for you in others and never quite find the same depth, the same loyalty, the same presence. That's the irony of absence. It reveals your worth in a way your presence never could. Disappearance creates desire. Psychology tells us that humans are wired to desire what they can't have. The more accessible something is, the easier it is to take for granted. But when it's taken away, it becomes valuable. Your silence becomes a mystery. Your absence becomes a puzzle they are desperate to solve. And suddenly the person who once ignored you, rejected you, or failed to see your worth is the same person who can't stop thinking about you. They replay memories. They wonder what went wrong. They question their own choices. And eventually, they regret. Because absence has a way of making people realize that not everything is replaceable. The power of walking away. But here's what truly matters. Your goal was never to make them regret. Your silence, your absence, your decision to walk away, it wasn't for them. It was for you. Because staying in a space where you aren't valued drains you. Begging for recognition diminishes you. Fighting to prove your worth is exhausting. But walking away, that's where your power lies. Not to teach them a lesson, not to make them chase you, but to reclaim your dignity, your energy, your self-respect. You don't need closure. You don't need an apology. You don't need them to realize their mistake for you to know your worth. Because the moment you choose yourself, the moment you decide that your silence is more valuable than their indifference, you win. Final thought. So if someone takes you for granted, if they dismiss your presence, if they fail to see your worth, step back, stay silent, let your absence do the talking, because one day they will wake up and realize that the very thing they once ignored was the very thing they now crave. But by then, you will have already moved on. Here's an expansion of key point 4 in a captivating, deeply engaging manner, aligning with Priyanka Chopra's bold and introspective style. Let me know if you'd like any refinements. Rejection is their loss, not yours. Rejection has a way of cutting deep. It can feel like a door slamming in your face, a silent verdict that you weren't enough. But here's what they don't tell you. Rejection is never about you. It's about them. Their fears, their insecurities, their inability to see your worth. When someone rejects you, dismisses you, or pushes you away, your first instinct might be to internalize it, to question yourself, to wonder what you could have done differently. But the truth is, their rejection is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their limitations. And one day they'll realize what they lost. People don't recognize value until it's gone. Think about the moments in life when you truly appreciated something. Was it in the moment? Or was it after it was gone? People rarely see the full worth of something when they believe it will always be there. They take presence for granted, assuming it's endless, but the moment it disappears, that's when the realization sets in. When they rejected you, they believed they were making a choice. What they didn't realize was that they were making a mistake. And mistakes have consequences. They may have thought they could replace you, that someone else could fill your space, but what they don't understand is this. You are not replaceable. You brought something to the table that no one else could. Your energy, your presence, your kindness. It wasn't just a transaction. It was a gift. And once it's gone, there's no going back. Rejection is redirection. Every rejection feels personal in the moment. But what if it's actually the universe protecting you? What if it's not a door closing, but a redirection towards something greater? Some of the most successful people in the world have faced rejection that could have broken them. Priyanka Chopra herself was once told she wasn't fit for Hollywood. Yet she didn't let someone else's opinion define her future. That's the mindset shift you need to embrace. Rejection is not the end of your story. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. One that they won't be a part of. One day, they'll look back and realize what they lost. They'll see you thriving, growing, evolving into the person you were always meant to be. And by then it will be too late. Their loss is your gain. Rejection feels like loss, but in reality it's a gain. It forces you to grow. It forces you to reflect. It forces you to level up. And the best revenge? It's not proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. You don't need them to realize what they lost for you to know your worth. You don't need their validation to move forward, because the person you become in their absence is far more powerful than the one they rejected. One day they will regret letting you go. They will wish they had seen your value sooner. They will crave the energy, the love, the presence they once took for granted. But by then, you'll be too busy living the life you were meant for. Final thought. So the next time someone rejects you, remember this. It's not your loss. It's theirs. And one day, they will understand exactly what they let go of. But by the time they do, you will have already moved on to something greater. Here's an expansion of key point 5 in a compelling, deeply engaging manner, staying true to Priyanka Chopra's bold and introspective style. Let me know if you like any refinements. Your silence is the loudest message. Silence has a power that words often fail to carry. It unsettles. It forces people to listen, even when they don't want to. And most importantly, it speaks volumes without you ever needing to say a word. When someone rejects you, the natural impulse is to respond, to demand explanations, to seek closure, to remind them of everything they lost. But what if I told you that your silence is the most profound response you could ever give? See, people expect noise. They expect confrontation. They expect you to react, to plead, to fight for a space they never truly valued. What they don't expect is for you to simply walk away. And when you do, that's when the real impact begins. Silence creates absence, and absence creates realization. Think about this. People don't miss what's always there, they miss what's suddenly gone. Your presence was once a given in their life. Your attention, your love, your energy. It was something they assumed would always be available. They never had to earn it, and because of that, they never stopped to truly appreciate it. But silence changes everything. When you remove yourself, when you step back and no longer give them access to your presence, something shifts. They begin to feel the emptiness you leave behind. They start to realize that your presence was not a right. It was a privilege. And now it's gone. That's when regret creeps in. That's when they start to wonder. That's when they begin to crave what they once dismissed. And all of this happens without you having to say a single word. The power of self-worth in silence. Choosing silence is not about playing mind games or seeking revenge. It's about self-respect. It's about understanding that your energy is sacred, and it should never be wasted on those who don't value it. It's about realizing that chasing someone who walked away is like begging for scraps when you are meant for a feast. You are not here to convince someone of your worth. You are not here to prove that you deserved better treatment. You already deserve better, and your silence is the proof that you know it. And let me tell you something. When you move with that kind of confidence, people take notice. They will start to wonder. Then they will start to chase. Silence doesn't just make them miss you. It makes them question everything. At first, they might feel relief. They might assume you'll eventually reach out, that you'll fight for them, that you'll keep trying. But as time passes and your silence remains, that's when the doubt sets in. They'll start to wonder, was rejecting you the right choice? Were they too quick to let go? Did they overlook something valuable? And then, slowly but surely, they begin to crave your presence again. They start replaying old memories, regretting the things they took for granted. They start imagining what life would be like if they had chosen differently. And soon enough, they will want you back. But here's the catch. By then, you'll be far beyond their reach. Silence is closure without permission. Most people chase closure because they believe they need it to move on. But here's what they don't tell you. Closure is something you give yourself. You don't need them to apologize. You don't need them to admit they were wrong. You don't need a grand moment where they beg for a second chance. Your silence, that is your closure. It's the statement that says, I don't need you to see my worth for me to know it myself. It's the ultimate act of self-love, of dignity, of strength. It's the decision to walk away not because you're bitter, not because you want them to suffer, but because you have better places to be. Final thought. So let them wonder. Let them feel the weight of your absence. Let them come to terms with what they lost. But never break your silence. For someone who only realized your worth after you were gone. Because by then, you'll have already moved on to something greater.